Vou colocar nossa câmera agora, então a gente vai aparecer.
Vamos aparecer.
Você não pode ver só naquela redinha lá.
Esse é um PDF.
Isso.
Não pode colocar a PPT. Tem uma animação.
Animação?
Sim.
Ok. Vamos trocar então. Deixa eu tocar a câmera.
Já estamos no laço.
Vamos só acessar.
Boa noite a todos e a todas. É um grande prazer e honra receber aqui a doutora Andrea Bar, que é o CEO da Capote, tanto em Porto Alegre quanto em Fortaleza. Queríamos agradecer a professora, pedir desculpas pelo pequeno atraso, mas houve um mal entendido quanto ao horário de início, né? E receber a todos nessa 10ª conferência do Centro de Estudos Europeus e Alemães. Queria saudar de forma especial também a professora Ana Paula Mota, aqui presente, vice-diretora, professor Lúcio Almeida, nosso professor da casa, que coordena o núcleo antifascista, realmente tem feito excelentes trabalhos aqui pela nossa faculdade. Saudar a todos os presentes e dizer que esta conferência será em inglês e, por isso mesmo, vamos contar com essa expertise, também um testemunho, né? Mas com essa expertise sobre a governança das grandes corporações. E, para isso, eu agradeço a presença da doutoranda Marcela Doelce, que fará, então, a apresentação já da parte em inglês dessa 10ª conferência do nosso Centro de Estudos Europeus e Alemães. Por favor.
Good evening, everyone. I am really glad to be here today and really honored with the invitation made by Professor Claudia. So I would like to thank her, first of all, and thank Professor Ana Paula. Also, I would like to thank Dr. Cdea, our Center of European and German Studies, our law school. And so before we begin, please let me introduce Dr. Andrea Mao. So since October 2017, Andrea is the CEO of Frankfurt, Brazil, in charge of the airports of Fortaleza and Porto Alegre. He has been since 2010 the Deputy General Director in charge of Finance and IT of Northern Capital Gateway. The company operates airport in São Petersburgo, Russia. The company successfully completed an investment program in the amount of 1.2 billion euros. As managing director of Dodge Group, she was before responsible for the division water and environment, transport, infrastructure, airports, structural engineering, and industrial plants of Rockwood, one of the largest German independent engineering consultants. Mrs. Paul has acquired extensive experience in the infrastructure development as the senior vice president of global investment and management division of Frankfurt between 2001 and 2009. She was in charge of managing a portfolio of more than 20 companies with earlier revenue of €7,000. She was in the executive board of several airports in Europe, Asia, and South America. Prior to this, Andrea was vice president of the Multi-Utility Center in Essen, chief technology officer of the Transport, and the head of Lemmeyer Energy Solutions in Frankfurt, and in charge of investments in power infrastructure in Germany and Europe. Andrea Paul holds a Master of Science degree in Energy Engineering. Dr. Andrea,
Thank you very much.
you have the word right now. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. So first of all, I very much appreciate the invitation that I have received from Professor Claudia. I told her that I very much like sharing the experience with the young people, because I know from my experience of my daughter, that during the study, you don't really understand what will happen in the real life. And that's, I'm very happy to share what happened to me, hoping to help in the future. So I want to say first that I apologize for English. It's not that I cannot speak Portuguese, but my level of Portuguese is only to communicate with the company. So I made big mistakes. And for a university of this size and renommee, it's not appropriate to try to express myself in Portuguese, more or less. So basically, I was asked first to speak a little bit about myself and my experience in the business, and then to speak about global compact, how these rules are implemented in the companies, and also at the end about ASG, which is a new corporate governance that everybody would like to adhere to. So, no, I'm doing something wrong. So in order to understand actually something about me, I go again in this CV that, but actually I would like to show you something else. So I'm born in Romania, I'm not German. I emigrated into Germany late in 1987, so with 25 years of age. Before that, my father worked in Peru, in Lima, so I spent 3.5 to 4 years of my life in the age around 12 in South America, but on the other side in Peru, where I went to school, and my Spanish was actually quite good because I learned it as a young person. I went back to Bucharest with my family. I finished my studies and I got married. And 5 days after our daughter was born, my husband went for a trip to Switzerland, a business trip, and didn't come back. We speak about the period of socialist communism. So the chance to get on the other side of the Iron Curtain was quite unique. And then, not knowing actually how difficult it is to emigrate, he decided to stay there. So my daughter and I, we struggled for 1.5 years, more than 1.5 years, to get the passports and to leave the country. So I arrived in 1987 in Germany, 26 years old, with a small child, with a diploma in my pocket that at that time in Germany for a woman was actually completely special, because nobody studied engineering. Actually, not even men studied engineering because it was not fashionable.
So I managed to be hired after 6 months of trying to find a place. I was lucky to find a company with a CEO that was focused on what my potential was, and not that I was a foreigner, and also not that I was a woman. And from there, I started growing from a simple engineer who was in charge of the design of transformers up to the head of the department of the transformer production. And at the end, I become assessor. Assistant is not the right English word, but assessor, you know better, of the executive of the group. And finally, I become myself executive in the group. And then I moved to Fraport. So it was quite of a, I would say, normal development. And after a while, I got bored with Fraport because it was a lot of traveling, but I didn't see any potential of further development. So I was in charge about merger and acquisition. So basically, I was working on projects to win more participations. One of those was the airport in Russia, St. Petersburg. And when they asked me if I want to go there to represent, let's say, in the Russian structure, the foreign part, which is a very tough job. In the meantime, everybody knows why. I accepted. So I lived 7 years in Russia and trying to, let's impose all these principles that we have in Europe in a Russian company, and it was tough. And then Fraport won the 2 concessions here in Brazil, which had been extremely difficult because of the very short time of implementation of the obligatory investments linked to a very heavy fine if we didn't finish in time. So they needed somebody with experience, so they asked me if I don't want to move from the very cold to the very hot in the expectation of Germans. So yes, I moved to Brazil, and it was a very intensive time. The first 5 years that are going to be accomplished now in October. But I think in the meantime, we got everything under control. So it was a good time, but I mean, yes, for a woman, it's not easy. It is difficult. First of thing was difficult to get a job. In the 80s, the position of women in Germany was officially equal with men, but de facto, practically as an engineer, you had no chance, and even you had, they paid you almost nothing. So I have to say I was lucky, because in that particular company where I started, the CEO was an open-minded man, and he's still sending me today emails asking me how I'm doing. Also, I think he should be around 80 years old. It was also tough to perform and prevail in a man's world. So I had moments when I was on the phone with clients that were asking questions about their transformers. So I was working in designing transformers, and I asked him to explain me more exactly what he wants. And he said, why I'm talking to a woman and hang on the phone. So you go through all this with less than 30 years old. I was not looking that bad. So I had a problem to control our team in the production, because when such a young woman comes and tell you, oh, you are doing wrong, you have to do it the other way around. They were saying, okay, go for shopping and let us do our job here. So also a difficult moment. What caused me a lot of headache is I have a daughter. She grew up, I cannot say on her own, but I was first fax and later on a mobile phone mother. And always with a bad conscience. So I do believe that she didn't miss the attention that every child needs from the mother, but the mere fact that I was not physically there is a problem for us, and it was a problem for her. I don't have until now too much free time. And the problem that's linked to this is that I was not able to see very often my parents. I lived abroad for almost half of my, no, more than half of my life in the meantime. So I was visiting my parents perhaps once per year. And I also don't have many friends because I simply don't have time to spend with friends. So basically, I arrive at home around 7:38. I eat a salad in order to try to keep the line, and then I do some exercise, and then I sleep, and the next day I go again. So there is no much time that one has to socialize. And the problem, for example, now when I go to Frankfurt, I simply don't know anybody more because I have some relationship in the places where I live, but there where my home actually is, I basically interrupted all the connections. This is a big price to pay. But what is good at this, at least what is good for me. So first of all, it's a big satisfaction when you create something that you can be proud of. So I can stand in front of one of the most beautiful terminals built in the world, which is the St. Petersburg terminal. It was a special architectural concept developed in UK. So just standing in front of this, it was part of my work. I can do the same here in Porto Alegre, also in for Fortaleza, and it's different than when you just do papers and you have successes. It's much different when you have built something that stays there and it will stand there for the next 20, 30 years. It's also nice when you get appreciation, awards, and so on for your work. We are all humans. It was, of course, an element that with this job, I was earning enough and being able first to offer to my daughter almost everything that she needed. And also, which is probably much more important, I was able to help my parents who lived in Romania until the end and needed financial support. So when I was able to pay for the medical assistance and for everything else and their care at the end of their life. Well, at the end, I'm very happy that my daughter is proud of me. She forgave my absence during her youth, and she's really proud of me. Okay, this was for personal. I don't know, you want to have some questions about this part?
Perhaps at the end.
At the end, okay. So, Global Compact, completely different subject. So these are the principles of business management that have been set in 2000 by the United Nations. And basically all three of them, protection internationally proclaimed human rights, freedom of association, child labor, and especially work against corruption. First of all, we have a lot of procedures that are saying that we have to follow this, but we have also in each single contract that we sign these clauses. In our industry, the situation is a little bit easy because you cannot have children working at the airports, married to the fact that you need a badge and the police is not issuing the badge if you are below 18. And also the works that are conducted at the airport itself to build it or whatever are not works that normally are conducted by children. But where we have a big focus on is the corruption topic. So our clauses against corruption are 3 pages. We have the obligation to put them in any kind of contract. If it is a contract to buy a service, it's a contract to sell something, it's always there. And not only from our side, of course, we expect the same behavior from the partners we are working with. So, but this was year 2000, and actually the newest corporate governance, this ASG, is based on this, but added some other aspects, because in 2000, I think the environmental topic was not that, present in the minds of everybody as it is today. So you see that I put a question mark there. Why is that? Because I'm afraid that the idea is very good, but the way we are implementing it now might not be very smart. This is my personal opinion. So what are we talking about? We are talking about the way companies should be conducted from now on. Good thing is that economics are still playing a role, but we have to focus on ecology, which means material and energy, means water, means flora, means fauna, and emissions. We have to focus on our culture, the way we are treating our employees, the way we are treating the vicinity of our businesses, and last but not least, the way we are organized, the governance of the company, respecting all the laws, of course, respecting the ethics, the accountability of everybody working in the company. So this is done already by consultants, and that's why I'm so a little bit skeptical, because many years ago, I don't know if you even know, because you are so young, the most fashionable thing was to have an ISO certification, quality. So many companies, or all the companies, spend a lot of money to get this stamp. And the stamp was just that you had written some procedures and you had a system how to change the procedure in something changing of production. But it was this fact that you had these books had absolutely no significance to the quality of the product that you produced at the end. But everybody said, oh, I'm qualified, so please buy from me. For me, it was just a product that consultants were selling for a lot of money, and everybody did this in order to be competitive on the market. And I'm very much afraid that we are going on this trip a little bit. So the principles are very valid, but what are we doing with this? So when you go into the internet, you see lots of people that are trying to sell you how to implement it. PwC, so all the auditors are now the super experts in this kind of covenants. So it's questionable. What are we doing here? Are we doing marketing, or we are doing something good for the society? So what is this? What I question myself is, okay, if you are watching all this by the book, definitely your profit is going to be lower. I'm not saying that it's going to be negative, but it's not going to be the same like now. But basically, are investors going to select companies with lower profit just because they know that they are following these principles? I don't know. Some of them might, but all of them I very much doubt, because the human being is very much egoistic. Then something that is disturbing me even with our own company. So our goal should be now to be net zero carbon by 2035. I don't know if you know what net zero carbon means. It means that you are using only energy that is produced by sustainable sources. But the carbon emissions that you need in order to use this energy are not calculated. So this means that I can install a field of photovoltaic, which has higher emissions than gas, has higher the production of the photovoltaic. So if you do the entire chain, so the emissions are higher and much higher, for example, as the quite green energy that we have here in Brazil because of the water hydropower. So I am officially net carbon, but de facto, the society is producing more carbon to be net. So it's absurd. Unfortunately, all the big corporations are going now in these directions. There are some that they are doing it properly, but the majority are saying, oh, 2035, I am carbon free. The same thing like with the electrical engines. We are all buying electrical cars. I also have one. But the carbon emission to do in order to produce the batteries that you are using in these electric cars, it's the balance at the end, it's even worse than it was before. So for me, it's a question that if we are on the right way now or not. The other point, which is very important, can we implement this without political support, especially here in Brazil? For me, it's not understandable. Every week when I go to Safari, I see the people going out from there with 3 tons of plastic bags. For God's sake, there is absolutely no initiative that I know to get these plastic bags out of the circulation. I bring my bags from home and they're all looking at me. I mean, they know probably only because of the bags that I'm not from here. This is an example, but all the plastic bottles that are laying all over the place. So I don't see any initiative from the government. I understand that you cannot do it from today or tomorrow, but at least to have kind of a long-term plan to stop this. There is an international agreement that plastic will be taken out from the consumption. I don't know, it's very soon, in 10 years or something like this. Brazil is not doing anything. Another example on the apron, I don't know who of you observed, but when the airplanes are stopped waiting for people to get out or to get in, they need a source of energy to have the air conditioning working and other equipments working. And here in Brazil, the source of energy is a diesel generator. It's a big animal that it's producing enormous amount of emission, carbon emission. And it's also not only because of the emission, but diesel has also other gases that are toxic. So why is this still allowed? We have the possibility to install electrical equipment, which is definitely less harming to the environment. But there is no support from the agency, the regulation agency, to say, okay, in 10 years from now or 5 years from now, please stop these diesel engines, use electrical power generators. So, and that's what I'm saying, how you want to implement something if actually there is no support, because obviously everyone tries to take the cheapest and the shortest way. And in doing this, you tend to ignore very much these principles. And the other concern that I have is that it's a lot of effort. So you have to prove all this, what I showed on the slide before. So to prove this, you have to produce a huge amount of documents, audits, reports, and so on. So how is a small company that, I don't know, is making masks in Novo Hamburgo, how are they going to comply with this? They will not, because they cannot. So we are putting, I mean, it sounds very nice, but probably 90% of the businesses in this world will not be able even to apply it because they don't have the financial power to do this. So these are, in my eyes, problems that we still have to solve as a society. Anyway, the good part, as I mentioned before, is that they are mentioning that financial success is mandatory, sustainable. So you cannot pay for no plastic. You cannot pay for other sources of energy if your business is not working. The idea is not to follow these principles and go bankrupt, because you cannot develop your company. We should implement environmental protection measures, but they have to make sense. So just to implement them, to demonstrate that we are doing something, but at the end, the impact of these measures to be exactly the contrary of what we are saying that we are doing, in my opinion, does make sense. Another aspect which I have to say, especially here in Brazil, is very different than what I saw in other countries. The way you deal with your employees, so a lot of rights, a lot of sensibility. I am the last one that is terrorizing my team, but at the end of the day, we are paying them a salary to work. So nice environment, good salary, other conditions, but we expect from the other side performance. So it cannot be the one without the other. We should not misunderstand social oriented. I'm a victim of the relocation of Vila Nazaré, and that's why I'm saying this, because here in Brazil, the situation of the poor people is taken out of context. So it's not that we have paid a lot of money to make them this movement more easy. But I think that's what happened was an exaggeration, and I see that this is happening in other places too. So the rights of these people are kind of idolatrization. It's a very difficult situation. And is this social orientation? For sure, it has a limit. Okay, so we have to understand that if we grow the business and the business is sustainable, we can even create more working places. So it should be the aim of whatever business to grow, not only to grow the profit for the owners, but also to give more opportunity to more people to work and earn a decent salary. And last but not least, I would love to focus on business development and not produce documents in order to demonstrate to whoever that we are following the ESG. So this balance between documentation and the real doing has to happen, because otherwise we are lost in paper. I think with this, I can show you our marketing logo. Gute Reise means in German, have a good travel, and the rest you understand. Ya no tenemos para mí porque somos
Isso.
Devo permanecer aqui? Ou...
Sim, sim, por favor.
Ok.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you very much for this very interesting speech that showed to us the difficulties, but also the interesting part, how the participation of women in very big corporations can make the difference. And also your skepticism about these very beautiful principles is also interesting for us. So let's begin our discussion with some questions from Marcelo, and then I have a question from Ms. And perhaps the audience has questions. As questões podem ser em português, espanhol ou inglês.
Thank you so much, Professor Andrea. Your history of life is really inspiring, and it's beautiful to see how much you care about what you're doing in Faculdade. It's really amazing to see that. So please allow me to thank in the name of all students. And I have a few questions, and please feel free to answer if you want to, if it's okay to answer. Okay, so my first question would be, so considering you were born in Bucharest, Romania, and moved to Peru when you was a teenager, and returned to Bucharest, where you went to engineering school. So what was the reality like in the engineering university in Romania in the 80s? I am really interested in getting to know a little bit more about that. My other question would be, what do you think was determinant for reaching a professional success and the CEO position in a company renowned as Faculdade? And the last question would be, what message would you like to leave to young women who are starting their careers of inspiration and encouragement? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the first question was, how was the university in Bucharest, right?
Yes.
Well, the level of education in Romania back in the 80s, this was the good part of the socialism. The level of education was very high. So basically, when I left to Peru, I went there to school and I was helping the mathematics teacher to make the lesson because my maths was much above him. So it was difficult also because it was an exam in order to be able to enter into university, and the exam was very high level. So it was a good selection, and the first 2 years we had only mathematics, a lot of mathematics, and you started actually learning the real part of the technical design and whatever in the last three years. So we had been two, we call them years. So each one had between 5 and 6 groups, and the group had 20 people. So, and we had lessons in the amphitheater auditorium with the entire year, but also in groups for the laboratory and other kind of things. Well, it was a nice line.
Thank you for answering that. And I don't know if you remember the next question, or would you like?
So you are testing me now. Let's see.
In a university.
Okay, so let me refresh our memories. I was asking, what do you think was determinant for reaching professional success and the CEO position in a company renowned as Faculdade?
Well, I think it's difficult to make a formula out of it. So first of all, it's very clear that I have a lot of luck. So I had luck to have to meet a person in Germany that gave me a job and appreciated what I was doing. And then there was other moments where I was lucky to make the right choice. But of course, you need a portion, you have to have some knowledge which is fitting for the job that you are doing. Even it's not necessarily what you studied, because actually I never worked in the direction that I studied in university. At the beginning, okay, the transformer planning had something to do with what I studied in the university, but I left this technical part going more into management, and at the end I was CFO, so financial. Has not much to do with what I learned in the university, but to have this flexibility and capability to learn new things and to be good in those, which was not sufficient just to learn them. And of course, I always want to do things the best as I can. So I know that I'm competing with others, but I'm competing with myself. And I think that this is something now I started taking gymnastic lessons because I need to move. In my age, you start becoming a little bit, you know, with less flexibility, and that I cannot accept that I cannot do things. So I'm training in secret. So when the professor comes, I show him that I can. So
Perfect, thank you. Okay, and the last question.
the message, I know. Well, what can I say? In our days, first of all, is easier than it was back in the 80s. And it's possible, but it's clear that you cannot be at home mother and a perfect wife and in the same time make a big career. So you can combine and you can manage, but nothing is going to be perfect, and you have to decide for yourself what is the priority. So I admit that I put a little bit more priority on my job than I put it on my family. I took care that everything works. But still, my priority was the job, and not because I wanted to become a COO and to get more money, just because I had the responsibility to do things and I want to do them right. And you can do them right only if you focus.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you.
I don't know if there are some questions in the public. Please, Patricia.
Since we are at a law school, I would like to have some say for law professionals work in companies. There's not the most common thing that we do. And you can see, I heard that we better set faculty proceed in your company or send a specialized attorney.
This is interesting question. So first of all, my management style is that I have to understand myself things in order to take decisions. So before I came here, I spent the 3 hours reading again a construction contract that we signed in 2017, where we have some problems, and trying to find the clauses that I can use to go against the contractor. So when I was working in M&A business in Fraport, I had to sign finance contract or to negotiate finance contract, to negotiate concession contract. So the legal part of the job that you do on the high level is quite important. So I always like to have strong lawyers in the company, because they have much more time to dive and to understand exactly the problems. But there are some special situations where you need experts. So we have a combination between in-house lawyers and external lawyers. But my in-house lawyers, they at the beginning, they've been afraid because I'm demanding them to understand and to take a position and not to run to the external lawyer to ask for advice. Okay.
Professor Lucio first, and then the colleague Jenny.
I think this was I am professor in this but the question is how to create more ways to get people.
You know, actually, I don't exactly know why this diversity became so important, because in our company, it was never an issue. So Frankfurt Airport has, I don't know how many nationalities alone, because in Germany, you have a mix of people. So the women rights, well, it's a cultural issue. I think you cannot impose it. And I was young, I said I will perform and then I will get it because I deserve. In the meantime, I changed my opinion because I saw that this is not working. And I think that what they are doing now in Germany, for example, that it's not really a law, but they recommend to have women in managerial positions, is helping. And of course, homosexuality is not a topic, was never a topic in our group. So we have lots of people that are in different groups, but it doesn't matter for us. I was even asked because my colleague from Germany that is responsible for operation is also a woman, and I was asked if in our company women get a special treatment, so we select more women than men, and I said no. For me, it doesn't matter if it's a woman, it's a man, it's black, it's white, is gay or not. So what we are asking is people that perform, that want to work with us, and they are happy to be in our company and work. So I don't know if I got the question right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then Jennifer, and then I have a question.
First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity for you to share your beautiful journey that you have built until today. And my question is in the context of when a man in your journey that in the case that you explained that with the example that you brought, when a man tries to embarrass you, how did you deal with this situation? Because I mean, in a context that they try to embarrass because of a gender.
Yeah. When he hangs on the phone, I cannot react. So I just went to the salesperson and I said, look, this guy didn't continue the conversation. So what we are doing now? And then he helped me and we called the guy together and he told him that in our company, this kind of approach is not acceptable. And he's kindly asked him to repeat the question and then we answered. Okay, you know, if you are aggressed, in our days you will say aggression when you are not taking serious and they are making jokes when you go in the production. You actually have to take it easy and make jokes, because if you get aggressive, you are actually getting on the other side. But of course, you need kind of a standing. So if you get emotional or stressed, then you lost.
Then I want to make my question. So first of all, thank you very much again. And my question is about this topic of the support or not support from the political side. Here in Brazil, sometimes the enterprise, the business, wait too much from the government. And now in this more liberal era, perhaps they are trying to change. But in your comments, you say that there are some part of the business, like environmental protection or social justice, and so that perhaps is too much for a company to make alone. The company needs a political support. So I understand your criticism that when the politics does not help, the enterprise alone cannot really make miracles, because also the idea of the business is to have more interest and to be financial okay, and then it's really difficult to make. And then my question is, you worked in Russia and now it's working in Brazil, so countries that are really a little difficult for political side. If perhaps you can explain us how to solve this lack of support from the political side for really important subjects.
So why I mean that you need political support is because the consciousness of the population is not there, that we have to do something. So and this is very difficult as a company. So for example, we were having these bebedores de agua with a plastic glasses. So, and when I saw, I said, are you crazy? All the plastic glasses away, everybody received a cup from us. And I said, please go take your water and your coffee with your cup and clean it after that. We are not, oh, it was kind of a disaster first. So these crazy Germans, we put everywhere, switch off the lights when you leave the room, switch off the air conditioning. Don't put the air conditioning on 70 degrees, 23 as recommended by Anvisa is sufficient. These kind of things, and it was actually not possible at the end of the day. We did part of so everyone at the end of the year becomes a bonus. And one of the criteria to measure the bonus is the reduction of consumption of energy. So we put then every year we have to save 10%. If you don't save, cut to the bonus. But this is ridiculous. And this is where I say you cannot change the mind of people from the company alone. So we are doing lots of things, but I'm sure they leave the company where they say, okay, the silly Germans, and they go home and they take the plastic cup and use it for each drink. So this is where, these are the small things, but this is an important thing, because if trillions of people are doing things right, this changes a lot.
Thank you. And then my second question is about this changement of cultures, or this evolution. What do you think is more important? Is political guidelines, or the non-government organizations that perhaps are missing in Brazil, for example, or you think this is only a question of marketing? That's perhaps with advertising, with engagement, of giving more support, for example, for a company that make a campaign to support the changement of culture. It's really possible, because I remember I used to live in Germany when they make a tax for the water bottles, and then this change in culture.
Right.
Each person, each student has his own bottle, not to pay the tax. No? And then I was thinking, oh, perhaps you really need guidance from the political side. It's not enough to make a marketing campaign, but this is my opinion. I want to.
No, definitely. So you have to do the marketing campaign, because in my opinion, people have to understand why they have to do this. So that's why the marketing campaign is explaining, look, fishes are eating the plastic that you chuck in the water, and then your kids are eating the plastic from the fish. So only this, and it should open the eyes. But what they did in Germany is, because they didn't manage to control it, not the Brazilians are worse than the Germans. And then they said, okay, you are not allowed to sell plastic, to give plastic bags, you have to charge. So now if you go to the shop, doesn't matter which shop, and you buy something, so they ask, do you want a bag? And you have to pay 20 cents. And everybody said, oh, no, I have my own bag. So I see the foreigners in Frankfurt when they go, not for food, when they go to the normal shop to buy a t-shirt and so on, and they are asked, do you want a bag? And they are, because they are not running with the bags with them. So it worked only because they stopped it. And the same thing with the bottles. And for example, in Germany, if you put your waste to be taken, they open it. And if they see that you mixed up biological with plastic and with paper, they don't take it, they leave it there. So yes, you have to force people to change behavior, unfortunately. That's why I'm saying that human being is very egoistic. So just with good wordings, you are not going to change. It has to be some regulation, and without regulation, it's not going to happen.
And more one question.
So feel free to ask in Portuguese, I understand.
Querem perguntar mais alguma coisa? Não? Não. So then, thank you very much for this very interesting talk. And I think we learn a lot, but also we have more questions that perhaps our future is this question about what the business can do and what the more public side. We here in a public free university, free from costs university, what the public side can do is really the question for the future. I thank you very much for these reflections and the idea to have this testimony by women that are now in power, but have a lot of work behind this way to go and achieve something special. I think it's also a testimony for our students and for the future. So thank you very much. And please feel home here. I will present you now our law school there. Thank you very much. Very good.